boys and girls. This is Miss Palmer. Today we're going to read a book called The Dragon Snatcher by M.P. Robertson. M.P. Robertson wrote the words and drew the pictures. Pretty cool looking black dragon. Outside, snow lay deep on the ground. George nestled among his books. It was a night to be wrapped warmly in the pages of a story. But as George was reading, he was disturbed by a commotion from the chicken house. George peered out of his window. Looking up at him was his dragon. He had a worried look in his yellow eyes. George threw a blanket around his shoulders and climbed out onto the dragon's neck. He clung tightly as they were whisked on the north wind to a land that was neither here nor there. Over lofty peaks they soared until George saw a dark castle that cut through the ice like a shard of flint. The dragon landed silently and hid beneath the drawbridge. George knew it wasn't only the cold that made his dragon shiver. There was something evil within. George entered the castle alone. He came to a courtyard where a soot-black dragon stood guard. Keeping to the shadows, George sneaked past. He found a staircase that wound its way up through the heart of the castle. At the top of the stairs was a heavy wooden door. George heaved it open. Suddenly, he couldn't believe what he found inside. Shelves and shelves of frost-covered eggs. Each was carefully labeled from the red-crested ridgeback to the horny cave dweller. They were dragon eggs. There was only one empty space left to fill. It was labeled the lesser spotted redcrest, extremely rare. Suddenly, George was startled by a noise on the stairs. He hid quickly behind a large egg. An old wizard with a beard of frost entered the room. A shiver ran through George as the air became icy cold. "Only one more to find," the wizard crackled. "Then I will rid the land of these cursed creatures." He stared into an orb of ice and began to mumble strange incantations. In the center of the orb, George could see the mountains surrounding the castle. The wizard searched the mountains, looking into every nook and cranny. On top of the highest peak was a twisted tree. Among its branches was a dragon's nest, and in the nest was a glowing orange egg. "There you are, my little beauty," hissed the wizard. "Soon my egg collection will be complete." The wizard ran down the stairs into the courtyard and mounted that black dragon. George leaned out of the window and whistled for his dragon. As he flew in front of the window, George leaped onto his dragon's back. What do you think George is going to do right now? Think he's going to follow the wizard? They followed the black dragon at a distance. Soon George spotted the twisted tree, and oh no, the wizard was crawling onto a branch toward the dragon egg. But George had a plan. Using his blanket as a net, he snatched the egg from the wizard's icy clutches. Then the chase began. A ball of fire came whistling past George's ear and crashed into the mountainside. The black dragon was belching fire at them. George's dragon flinted to and fro, trying to avoid the fireballs, but he misjudged a turn and crashed into the face of the mountain. Luckily, George and his dragon landed softly in the snow, but the egg fell from the blanket. George watched as it rolled down the mountain and landed at the wizard's feet. "It's mine," said the wizard, holding the egg aloft. But the egg began to glow, as if it was a fire inside. It burned hotter and hotter until it was too hot for the wizard to hold. What do you think was happening to the egg here? If you said that the egg was hatching, you're right. It was hatching. The wizard looked on in disbelief as a tiny red dragon emerged. Then he sank to his knees, picking up pieces of shells. "The last egg," he sobbed. "It's ruined." The baby dragon was looking at the wizard with love in his eyes, chirping like a chick. "He thinks you're his mother," said George. "I'm not your mother, you pathetic little creature," said the wizard. But as his cruel glare met the bright yellow eyes of the baby dragon, the wizard saw the love that glowed within. The ice that had frozen his heart began to melt. Back at the castle, the wizard's icy spell had broken, and as new warmth filled the egg room, a wondrous thing happened. What do you think was happening back at the castle? Let's see. All the eggs are beginning to hatch. Look at that. The spell was broken. Love broke that spell. The wizard led the baby dragon toward the castle. "He'll make a good mother," thought George. And as he and his dragon flew over the castle, a rainbow of newly hatched dragons filled the sky. George headed for home, happy that once again dragons would fly free in the land that is neither here nor there. Let's see, here's George on his dragon. And look at all the other dragons that are flying. They're all free now, and they're flying around the castle. The end.